Hello, everybody. How are people doing? Hi, Jessica. Hi, Joe from Gagetown. Hi, Ottawa. You're well. I'm glad to hear that. Nice. Groceries bought and put away. Hi, Kelly. Hello from Petawawa. Nice to see you. All right, it's 12 o'clock. I know there was some more people that had registered, so maybe they'll join us in a couple of minutes, but I'd like to get started in order to respect your timings. My name is Diane Bryan. I am the Health Promotion Manager here at 17 Wing Winnipeg, and it is my pleasure today to be here presenting this webinar on building resilience. And today's seminar is called Life Happens. I'll be presenting a series of 3 webinars, so one today, one next Tuesday, and one the Tuesday afterwards, all based on building your resilience and giving you tips and tools on how you can make your resilience larger and stronger. So this webinar is scheduled to last about 1 hour. And we will be using, for the most part, the chat box. I will not be putting anybody on screen or using the microphone. I'll be the only one doing that. So if you have any questions or comments or concerns, please feel free to use the chat box, and we will, and I will try to keep my eye on that to answer all the questions. All right, so let's start out with a poll. So what I'd like to know is, what is your affiliation? So are you military? Are you a civilian employee, a family member of a military person, a veteran, or an other? Wow, very nice. So lots of military today on the webinar. That's really good to see. Some civilian employees, a few family members. Very good. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of my face so that you can concentrate on the PowerPoint slides, and I will come back on, I'll put my face back on later, but you don't need to be looking at that. And it'll also make the slides larger. So I will see you again in about 45 minutes. This is a standard slide that we show before every presentation. So the presentation that you're about to view is the intellectual property of the Department of National Defense. So therefore, any reproduction or retransmission of the slides contained within this presentation are strictly forbidden. So please don't try. Some of the topics that are going to be discussed in this webinar may be of a sensitive nature and may be disturbing or not appropriate for young children or for children. And I realize that the majority of you are probably joining in from home. So please be cognizant of that, and we ask for your discretion when you've got your kids around you. Please understand that the stories that people are going to tell, should they choose to, are theirs alone to tell. And anything that is shared by participants in this webinar, whether, won't be on camera, but in chat, is not to be discussed outside this webinar. And then finally, we are recording these webinars, and they will be available for viewing later on CAF Connection. So although I really appreciate active participation, you may simply follow along without using the chat if you so wish. All right, so I know some of you have been putting in the chat box where you are from. what I'd like to do is actually find out exactly where most people are joining from. So I have another poll for you. And I'd like you just to give me an idea of where you're from, whether you're from the East Coast, Quebec, Ontario, the Prairies, BC, or the North. Wow, lots from Ontario, some from the East Coast. I know you guys are going through a very difficult time there in Nova Scotia. That's my home. So it's been a difficult time, but I appreciate that you guys have joined in today, that you've all joined in. So thank you very much. All right, so here's the outline of what we're going to be doing today. So we're going to look at what does mental resilience look like. We talk about resilience all the time, but what exactly does it look like? We're going to talk about some of the barriers to resilience, what you're currently doing maybe to overcome these barriers, and then I'm going to introduce today 3 tools that can help you to start growing your resilience. So, what is resilience? Please use the chat box and let me know, what's your definition of resilience? Recovery, like that. I would say it's ability to adapt to any changes, ability to withstand and recover from a stressor. Very nice. Yeah, when we talk about resilience, we talk about that ability to bounce back when things don't go as planned. It's a quality that we all possess to some degree, but some of us can draw on it more easily than others can. It's important because it keeps us on track until we reach our goals. It allows us to deal with difficult situations, the situation that we're dealing with right now with working from home. It also helps us to grow by encouraging us to look at the positives and to manage stress. So resilience is not about trying to carry on regardless of how we feel. And it's not about being superhuman or bulletproof. Instead, it's about understanding why we feel the way we do and developing strategies to help us deal with the situations effectively. So I like to look at resiliency or being resilient as kind of like a trip down a river. When you get into a raft and you start going down a river, you can encounter some rapids, some turns, some slow water, some shallows. So as in life, the changes you experience affect you differently along the way. So if I'm going to react differently, if I'm coming to a part of the river where it's white, where I'm encountering white water, as opposed to whether it's very nice and still and wide. So in traveling the river, it helps to have knowledge about it and past experience in dealing with it. And your journey should be guided by a plan, a strategy that you consider likely to work well for you. And that's the same with when we looking at situations that we're encountering, difficult situations. It's nice to have a plan and know what we're doing. So perseverance and trust in your ability to work your way around boulders and other obstacles are important. And that's what we're going to work on today, is giving you some of those tools to help you get around those boulders. You gain courage and insight by successfully navigating your way through the white water. And if you have trusted companions who accompany you on the journey, that can be really helpful for dealing with the rapids, upstream currents, or other difficult stretches of the river. And like going down the river, you can climb out and rest alongside the river. But to get to the end of your journey, you need to get back into the raft and continue. So with resiliency, sometimes we get stuck and stopped. But in order to move forward, we have to get back into that river and move on. So that's what we're going to be working on today. All right, so think of somebody you know who's resilient. What are some of the characteristics that they have? What does someone who is resilient look like, sound like? What are they doing? So if you want to use a chat box and answer those questions, that would be wonderful. So how do you know somebody is resilient, or looking at somebody who you assume is resilient? They're cheerful and determined. Thanks, Joe. Disciplined, a problem solver. They have humor in the face of adversity, confident, emotional control, calm. Absolutely. These are all great, great responses. When we look at people who are resilient, we tend to see somebody who has an awareness. I don't know if I'm the only one, but I'm having difficulty answering this question. It's probably a good thing I'm here. That's fine, Jessica. Not a problem. Not a problem. I guess that is why you're here. We're going to figure out what it is that makes somebody resilient. So usually a person who is resilient has awareness of the situation. They realize that life happens and that setbacks are a part of that. Right? They're good at problem solving. They have strong social connections. They establish goals. They embrace change. They take care of themselves too. They are optimistic. So they try to build positive beliefs in their abilities. They have that sense of purpose, right? Able to adapt to change. Past successes give confidence in new challenges, but they're not afraid to fail either, or to have a setback. They also know where to turn for help. And when under pressure, they seem to be able to focus and think clearly. They have a strong sense of purpose and tend to like challenges, and they have pride in what they've achieved. So all those things make up somebody who is resilient. So when stuff happens, how do we know how we're dealing? So that's where the mental health continuum model comes in. And I know for many of you, you've seen this model many, many times and understand the purpose of it. But I just wanted to add it in the context of becoming resilient or growing your resiliency. So this model was developed for us to recognize where we or someone around us is at. It lets us know that we can move along the continuum back and forth, that we can have really good days and we can be healthy and have normal functioning, but then added stressors can happen to us, or setbacks can happen, and we can move into the reacting or injured, or perhaps even the ill stage. But the sooner that we can apply our resiliency building skills, the easier it should be for us to move back to the green. So looking at this model, the model uses behaviors, and these behaviors indicate where you are on the continuum. They look at mood, performance, sleep, physical activity, social connection, and alcohol, drug, and gambling and gaming use. So when you're a resilient person, what you should have is you should be looking like somebody who's in the healthy, with normal mood fluctuations, calm, takes things into stride, good sense of humor, normal sleep patterns, physically well, being active, limiting your alcohol, gambling, and gaming use. But a resilient person can also recognize when they are going into that reacting or injured stage. So what we're going to look at now is we're going to look at the Yerkes-Dodson law. Now this model is, you've probably seen it before. It looks at how our performance is impacted by our arousal or our stress. And what I want to do is bring in how this model actually has an impact on our ability to deal with, to grow our resilience. When we don't have enough stress, we don't do anything. We have no motivation to move. I think it's something like being a sloth. Really don't have to get up and move and do anything, right? So we all need some type of motivation or stressor on us in order to move. Yerkes-Dodson, I'll put that in the chat box for you. Apparently, I am not good at doing two things at the same time. So as we get more stress or more arousal, our performance starts to improve. We get interested. We get our attention gets caught. We start to go, oh, okay, so what's happening? What do I need to be getting? And we start to get involved, and our performance starts to grow. There's a point in this bell curve where we have the optimal arousal giving us the optimal performance. And we're going to talk about what that feels like in a little bit. But if we can't stay there, and I think it's something that it's difficult for us to stay there for a really long time. If other pressures start coming in on us, if other things start happening to us, if life keeps happening to us and we're not doing or changing anything else that we're doing, our performance can become impaired. We have too many stressors on us and we become impaired, and then we tend to then our performance tanks again, and we're struggling. We become anxious. We become almost like fainting goats. So if you've never seen a video about fainting goats, watch it, because that's what when I think of too much arousal does to my performance, that's exactly what I'm thinking of. Okay, so too much stress and we become overwhelmed. We need to have enough stress that pushes us forward but is still manageable. And that's kind of difficult to find. Now, this is just another diagram of the Yerkes-Dodson model, but I'm not a very good drawer, so we're using this one. So the middle area, the area of best performance, shows us where we're performing at our best. So what does it feel like in that zone? What's it feel like when we've got just the right amount of pressure on us that we're performing at our best? How does that feel? So take a moment and write that in your chat box. Productive, satisfying, happy, excited, in the zone. Absolutely. Everything's just kind of ticking along and stuff is going balanced. For sure, Jean. Yeah. Second, productive. Absolutely. It's a great place to be. You feel really good in that zone. So if we think back about the mental continuum model, where is that? Where is that zone of ultimate performance? It really is when we're in the healthy zone. When we're healthy, that's when we're being most productive. That's where we want to stay. So when we work on our resilience, what we're doing is we're keeping ourselves into that healthy zone. One of the other things that I wanted to mention is, depending on your resiliency will depend on how big or how wide that zone or area of best performance is. For some people, their bell curve may be quite small. They haven't developed the resiliency skills to be able to maintain that area of best performance for a long time. And other people have been developing their resiliency skills for a while and are able and have a much larger, higher, wider bell curve. So it's important to know that although right now maybe somebody's bell curve is pretty small, you have the opportunity to grow that bell curve and make it bigger and higher. So what are some barriers to being resilient? What lowers your resiliency? If you want to take a second and write something in the chat box for me, that would be great. Stress at home. There's no stress at home, Kelly, really? Stubbornness, panic, not getting enough sleep, lack of support, lack of understanding your thoughts. Absolutely. Yeah. Not feeling connected. For sure. All those things, trauma. Past experience. Yeah, all these are barriers to us being able to maintain our resiliency or become more resilient or to be in that zone of optimal performance. So what are some things then that you are currently doing to overcome those barriers? What are you doing right now to help you to move back to the green and overcome those barriers. This webinar, thanks, Jessica. Mindfulness meditation, breathing mindfulness meditation exercise. Nice. Very nice. Good nutrition, staying connected with family, nice evenings with family. Meditation, affirmation, visualization, reading, writing, exercise. Those are awesome, Jeremy. Talking about feelings and emotions. Yeah. Play. Don't take everything so seriously. Communication. Do something you're good on. Exercise, painting, etc. Yeah, absolutely. Right? When we have success, we feel better about ourselves. So absolutely. So what we're going to look at today is we're going to look at 3 of them. And I know that some people have already talked about these are skills that they use. And I know that we've talked about them already in previous webinars. But I just wanted to go over them again because I think they're extremely important in helping us with our resilience and growing our resilience. So today we're going to look at grounding. We're going to look at mindfulness, and we're going to end today with goal setting. And for those of you that are going to be joining us on all 3 webinars, there'll be some homework around goal setting. So I guess the one thing that I want to start with is that people who are resilient understand that bad things happen and that they have to figure out a way to deal with them. So we're going to start off with grounding. So what does it feel like to not be grounded? Scattered, inattentive, panic, absolutely, discombobulated. I'm very impressed, Lee, that you could spell that because there's no way I could have done that. You have no reference on yourself, the environment, anxious, not present, concerned. Absolutely. I think this little quote here, or this little picture sort of describes it really well about when you're not grounded. It's like being in that high speed wobble or having that chaos, right? It really makes it difficult for you to concentrate on what it is. Yeah, concerned as well, unstructured. For sure. I often find myself in this case where I'm trying to focus on something, but my brain just takes over and goes another direction. So grounding allows us to focus on outward or the external world rather than the inward towards self. When you become overwhelmed with emotions, you need a way to detach so that you can gain control over your feelings and stay safe. Grounding anchors you to the present and to reality. Grounding techniques use 1 or more of the 5 senses to immediately connect people to the here and now. They produce sensations that are really hard to ignore, thereby directly or instantaneously connecting you to the present. So the purpose of grounding is to get back in touch with the present moment, to feel safe in your surroundings and calm and in control of your breath and your body. So what are some examples of grounding? What are some ways that people ground themselves? Breathing, for sure. It's a really easy one. Meditation. Go outside. Self-talk. Self-control. Sure. Drink water. Yoga. Yep. Concentrate on an object. Yeah, to concentrate on that object and really look at that object. I know I blank myself, but if you were to see me, I often, when I'm presenting something, will have something in my hand. Right now it is a paper clip, but occasionally it's an elastic band. But I have something in my hand so that it helps me to stay grounded or present in the room where I'm at. So I'm able to maintain my concentration on what I'm doing. So grounding examples of grounding could be biting into a lemon or tasting something that is really tart or spicy, holding a piece of ice, slapping, having an elastic on your wrist and pulling it and having it hit your wrist. All those things are really hard to ignore, and they can help you to ground yourself, to bring yourself back into the present. In football games or hockey, or I guess mostly football games, when the winning team finally wins, what typically happens to the coach? Gatorade shower, absolutely. So I'm telling you, if he wasn't paying attention before that Gatorade shower, he was definitely paying attention once that Gatorade shower happened, right? That is something that is very hard to ignore. It uses your senses and helps you to recognize that something is happening to you, right? So any of those things. If we watch athletes as they're getting ready to compete in a competition or a race, what are some things that they do to ground them? Because they're very good at using grounding techniques. So thinking about maybe somebody who's getting ready, visualization, shake their bodies. Absolutely, you see them shaking their bodies, jumping up and down, feeling their connection with the space that they're in. Absolutely, music. And I'm guessing that that music is fairly loud, right? So gets them outside of their head. They're visualizing what they need to do, shaking their bodies, maybe slapping their arms and their legs, right? To let them know that they're connected, having a specific pregame ritual to focus. Absolutely. All those things all help them to ground them so that they're able to stay in the moment so that they can compete to their top performance, right? Because if they're not, teamworks, absolutely. What happens if you're not grounded as you get ready to compete? You might be 2 or 3 seconds off when the whistle goes or the horn says that you can start. And those 2 or 3 seconds, when we're looking at high competition, really could mean the difference between winning the race and losing the race. So really important for athletes to stay grounded, but it's also important for us to stay grounded too. So what are some benefits of grounding? What might be some benefits of grounding? Concentration, absolutely. And it's going to improve your concentration, helps you to stay focused, breaking bad thought lines, preventing being overwhelmed, improve performance, mental clarity. Absolutely. Keeping stress levels to a minimum, keeps you in the green. Absolutely. Yeah. Will anybody know we're doing it necessarily? I would say unless you're using something that is pretty out there, like dumping water on my face, then people, but even if I'm splashing water on my face, I don't think people would really realize that I'm actually trying to ground myself. Right? These are things that you can do that nobody else. Okay. Scratch your hands pretty hard when stressed consciously. Okay. And does it work, Julie? Okay. All right, as long as it works. But typically, not too many people are going to notice you're doing it. If you're practicing deep breathing, you're taking a couple deep breaths, if you're just feeling your connection to the earth, if you've got that elastic on your wrist and you're just popping it, if you're playing with a pen or a paper clip in your hand, people aren't going to notice that really why you're doing it could be because you're trying to ground yourself. So I know that previous webinars have talked about the 5-3-4-2-1 grounding exercise that we use in health promotion programs. So looking at 5 things that we see, 4 things that you feel, 3 things you hear, 2 things you smell, 1 thing you taste. This exercise helps you to look at the outside world, to get outside of your head and to look at what's happening outside of you. So as I sit here, 5 things that I see: my computer screen, the light, the Kleenex box, my water bottle, my notes. 4 things that I feel: I can feel my feet on the floor, my butt in the chair, my back against the back of the chair, the paper clip in my hand, What do I hear? The traffic outside. I hear the fan from the computer and the heater going beside me. Two things that I smell. I don't really smell much, but I smell the air. I smell the coffee that I just had. And then one thing that I taste, I'm still tasting the toothpaste from when I brush my teeth. So all those things help me to bring me back in the room. They don't take a long time to do, but it's something that I can do that brings me my focus back to where I'm at. And also grounding is the gateway to being mindful. So what is mindfulness? Being present in the present. I really like that definition, Julie. Being in the present time, self-awareness. Absolutely. Our thoughts are like unruly children, pulling us here and there, and that can be a big source of stress. When we're mindful, we're paying attention on purpose, in the here and the now. Mindfulness is the act of being intensely aware of what you are sensing and feeling at every moment without interruption or judgment. Is there anybody here who is good at being mindful? How are you at being mindful? I have my times. Yes, practice. That's great, Rod. Journaling, paying attention, for sure. I try to be mindful. I'm working on it. It's definitely for me a work in progress because I do have a mind that just flips all over the place, sees a shiny object and it goes like squirrel. So I really try to make that conscious effort. Yeah, you have to make that conscious effort to be mindful continuously. Okay. So I guess the easiest way to illustrate how most of us aren't mindful is with an example. So think about how often you've been driving or sitting on the bus and notice that you have no visual memory of the previous 5 minutes. You were obviously there. And if you were driving, you were performing every day. You're performing a really difficult task of driving a car, but you were lost in that internal world thinking about something else. I often will walk into a room and stand in the middle of the room and look around and go, I have no idea why I'm here. I don't know. So you end up walking out of the room and you're thinking like, right. And you go back in. I do that constantly. So what's the issue with this, with driving sort of on autopilot? I guess for me, the thing is that we didn't take any visual information associated with driving. I haven't encoded, yeah, you're not focused. I've not encoded anything into my memory, right? So for my brain, if I've not encoded anything into my memory or not have any visual information associated with it, then for my brain, that part of me, that part of my life didn't happen, which is kind of a scary feeling because I'll have no ability to recall it later. I was absent. So I have one more poll for you. What I'd like you to do is let me know, how good of a multitasker are you? Are you a good multitasker or not? So the majority of the people feel that they are quite good at multitasking. So how do you ensure that you're multitasking well? I delegate. Okay, that works. Plan, for sure. Checklists. Okay. Very cool. Flow of tasks. Priorities and plans, focus. Okay. I would suggest that although we may be doing, no, I'm going to change, I'm going to go back. So I think multitasking is possible if we're working on the same job. So if we take, for example, driving a car or flying an airplane, there are certain things that we have to be aware of and we have to keep doing in order to either keep that car on the road or keep the plane in the air. We have to be paying attention to the instruments. We have to be listening to if we're in the plane, paying attention to the instruments, listening to the radio, looking at the window, paying attention if we have a co-pilot or other crew members with us, what their tasks are doing. There's lots of things that we have to do. So I think we can multitask when it involves that one job, like flying the plane, driving the car. It's when we introduce something that doesn't belong in that, if we introduce another task that doesn't belong with that job, that becomes difficult, and I don't think we can do it. So when we introduce a cell phone into a car, are we doing a good job at both those things? I don't think we can do those. But I think if it's all about doing one task, then most definitely I can multitask and do all the things that have to do with driving the car or sailing a boat or riding my bike, right? But when I start to introduce other things, then my focus goes away from my primary job, and I don't think I'm being as mindful as I should be when that's happening. What are your thoughts on that? Nailed it. I was thinking more of a time span. Okay, that makes sense, Joe. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So unfortunately, distractions are everywhere, and that gets in our way of being mindful. So when we're locked in the past or planning for the future, we're not paying attention to the present, and we forget that we can't change the past and we can't control the future. So for many of us, even if we want to pay attention, we're more likely to get distracted by internal thoughts and sensations or the external thoughts and sensations. So instead of enjoying time with our partner, we might be thinking about work, and instead of appreciating a good meal, we might be watching TV. Say multitasking is part of zooming out. I like that. Yeah, and I agree with you too, Rob, about changing the radio. When you're first learning to ride, the radio is not on. Absolutely. And then as you get more proficient, then you can add those other things. That's a good point, Rob. Okay, so what are the benefits of being mindful? People need to realize cruise control is not autopilot. That is very true. I don't know what's going to happen when we have automatic cars or self-driving vehicles. That's going to make it difficult. It'll be interesting. So what are some benefits of being mindful? It's okay. Makes you more efficient in daily tasks. Absolutely. Calmness, for sure. I think it keeps you calm and thorough. Yeah, it improves your concentration and focus. It's going to reduce anxiety and emotional reactivity. I'm going to see things happen. I'm not going to get scared as I walk around the corner and somebody jumps out at me. If I'm paying attention, I'll probably fall up less stairs if I'm paying attention as well, right? So fewer accidents. I'm going to be feeling better. My mood will be improved when I'm being mindful. It's going to increase my sense of well-being, strengthen self-confidence, willpower, decision-making. It improves your sleep and teaches us that we're in control of our thoughts and they don't control us. So many of you talked about practicing mindfulness and doing things like meditation and yoga, paying attention to your breath, watching something, actually looking at something. What are some other ways that you can practice mindfulness? Yep, mindfulness helps to ground us, and we need to be grounded in order to be mindful. Meditate, absolutely. Just pay attention and witness what's around us, for sure. There are, stop and smell the roses. Yeah, there are two things that I do to help mindful coloring, that I do to sort of to help me to allow those thoughts just to go through my head, or to help me to be mindful when I need to. So one of them is called mind chatter. And mind chatter is an activity that you can do when you've got a lot on your mind. Say you've had an argument with your partner or your children or somebody at work, or a task is sort of eating up all your time and you need to get it done and you need to focus on something. But you've got all these thoughts going through your mind, like I need to pick up milk, I need to call my mom, I need to do something. What you can do is take a moment before you start whatever task it is that you need to be focused on, whether you're going into a meeting, whether you're going to be repairing an airplane, whether you're going to be working on some type of report. Take a moment and write down all these things that are stuck in your head, the things that I need to remember to do for tomorrow, the things that I need to do on my way home from work, the things that I need to do with my husband or my children, or to call my mom. Write them down on a piece of paper. Take that piece of paper, fold it, and put it in your pocket. It's out of your head. So now I don't have to worry about those thoughts. I've got them safely written on a piece of paper, and I can concentrate on what I need to concentrate on, whether it be the report, whether it be fixing the airplane, whether it be sitting in on the meeting, or even talking to my spouse and having that conversation that I want to have. But that's one of the things that I found has been really helpful. And I also find that if my brain starts to go back to those thoughts, all I have to do is put my hand back to my pocket and go, it's okay, Diane, you've got it in your pocket. You can go back to it later. So that's been really helpful. Another thing that you can do to help you to become more mindful, and I guess this is a way of meditating as well too, is to try to count to 10 slowly in your head and not get stuck on any thought. Just to do the counting. So counting 1, 2, 3, 4. And this is usually where my thoughts start to come and go, hey, this is not so bad. I think I'm going to be doing it. I've got this. Oh, look over there. See that? That's a green thing. That looks good. And I'm going like, oh, okay, now I need to start again. But to be able to take that time and count slowly from 1 to 10 and not focus on it helps you to train your brain to be mindful, to allow those other thoughts just to come and go as they need to. Right? So being mindful gives us options. It allows us to choose when and how we focus without the usual internal distractions. We can't be mindful all the time, right? And there's plenty of times when daydreaming can be effective as well. But learning to be present when you need to be, or when it's important that you are, is a skill that can make the difference between wandering through your life and actually living your life. So I think that's really, really important. How are you guys doing? Awesome. Okay. So we're going to do a mindfulness exercise. So this mindfulness exercise is called Be Where You Are. So I'd like you to find a comfortable position in your chair, if you're in a chair, if you're on the couch, on the bed. Close your eyes and take a few deep breaths. Relax. Don't let yourself drift off to sleep, but allow your body to rest. Slowly bring your awareness to the tips of your fingers. Feel your fingers. Rub your fingertips together. How do they feel? Can you feel the small indentations on your fingertips that are your fingerprints? Take time to try and feel them. What are they like? Are your fingertips rough from lots of work, or are they smooth and silky? How does it feel to rub them together? Notice the feelings and then move on. Rest your fingers where they were before. What are they touching? Are they resting on the arm of your chair or your pant leg? What does that feel like? Is it soft or hard? Does it have any other distinguishing features? Does the armrest have markings or is it smooth? Take time to completely absorb the way these objects feel to your fingertips. Bring your attention to your hands and arms. What do they feel like? Perhaps they are relaxed and heavy. Perhaps they are tense. Either way is okay. There's no need to judge. Simply observe the feelings in your arms and hands. Are there aches and pains? Take note of these, but do not fixate on them. Simply note the pain and move on. Move your attention down to your toes. Wiggle them around a little. Are they free to move about? Squish your toes back and forth, feeling whatever is beneath them. How does it feel? Can you tell what it is just by feeling? Would you be able to tell only by touch? Notice the sensations as you bring your awareness to your feet. How is your head positioned? Is your head aligned with your spine, or is it drooping, resting on your chest? Without trying to change the position of your head, simply note where it is positioned. There is no right way for your head to be. Just let it be where it is. Now think about the sensations in your head. Do you have a headache? Is your head relaxed? What about your face? How does your face feel? There are all kinds of sensations to explore in your face. Think about your brow. Is it smooth and flat, or is it crinkled up with stress? Again, don't try to change it, just notice it. Bring your awareness to your nose. Can you breathe freely, or are you plugged up? Take a few breaths in and out through your nose. How does that feel? Can you feel cool air flowing into your lungs, or is the air warm? Pay attention to the feeling for a moment. Then think about your mouth. How is your mouth positioned? Is it pursed? Is it open? Is it closed? What about the inside of your mouth? Is it wet or dry? Can you feel saliva coat the inside of your mouth and throat? Explore all the sensations throughout your face. Perhaps you can feel oil on your skin. Perhaps your skin is dry. Perhaps there is no feeling at all. Just note it and move on. Now think about your whole body. Where are you sitting? Can you feel the backside of your body touch the chair in various places? Be mindful of the way your body is positioned. There is no need to move, just observe. Think of the room that you're in. Where are you positioned in the room? Do you have a sense of where the door is? What about the ceiling? Can you feel your body in context of this larger space? When you're ready, open your eyes and take a look around the room. Move if you wish. Notice where the various pieces of furniture are. What do they look like? Remember not to judge, just notice. So how is that little exercise? Thanks. All right. So the last thing we were going to talk, I'm glad it was relaxing, James. Now we're going to talk about goal setting. So who sets goals? Do any of you regularly set goals? Rod? Yep. Nice. It's good to hear. Not enough goals. Sure. Okay. So what type of goals do you typically set? Are they short-term goals, long-term goals? Short-term. Okay. Yes, for workload, physical activity, homework. Wow. Nice, Julie. Lots of them. Achievable ones. That's always good, James. For sure. Short and annual. So for those of you who don't set goals, why not? Short-term plans to achieve it. That's nice, Jeremy. So if you're not a goal setter, why not? Fear of failure. Okay. All right. Same. Okay. Well, hopefully we'll be able to help you with this. Right? So some of the barriers that we have when we're setting some goals, what might be some? So as this cartoon suggests, that maybe sometimes our goals are set too high, right? Unrealistic. Absolutely. So we're going to look at SMART goals. So I'm sure that many of you have heard about SMART goals. They're taught through R2MR training and taught through some of our courses that we also hold. So we're going to look at SMART goals. So SMART goals is a tool that you can use to ensure that your goals are clear, align with what you want to do, and that you'll be able to reach them with success, but not too easily. So to make sure that your goals are clear and reachable, each one should be, first off, specific. Your goals should be clear and specific. Otherwise, you won't be able to focus on efforts or feel truly motivated to achieve them. When drafting your goal, try to answer the 5W questions. So what do I want to accomplish? Why is this goal important? Who is involved? Where is it located? And which resources or limits are involved? So if we look at this diagram, this flow chart about creating a goal, the first goal that they have is the idea of what you would like to change. So I'd really like to look better. Well, that's not very specific. So how do we make that more specific? Could say I'd like to lose weight, I'd like to be more active, I'd like to exercise, whatever it is, you need to be more specific. It might be that maybe you're working on the shop floor and you'd like to become a supervisor. So a specific goal might be, I want to gain the skills and experience necessary to become a supervisor within the organization so I can build my career and lead successful teams, right? That's pretty specific. The next thing they need to do, can you go back to, I can absolutely go back. Yeah. So the next goal needs to be, the next thing about SMART goals is they need to be measurable. It's important to have measurable goals so that you can track your progress and stay motivated. If I don't have a measurement on my goal, then I'm not going to know that I've made it. Right? How am I going to be able to tell if I've been able to complete that goal? So assessing progress helps you to stay focused, meet your deadlines, and feel the excitement of getting closer to achieving your goals. So a measurable goal should address questions such as how much, how many, how will I know when I've accomplished it? So in this flow chart, it talks about that I want to lose 10 pounds. So that's a how much, right? Again, if you go back to wanting to be a supervisor, you might measure your goal of acquiring the skills to become a supervisor by determining that you'll have to complete the necessary training courses and gain relevant experience within maybe 5 years or 2 or 3 years. So after specific, measurable comes achievable, or sometimes they use the term attainable as well. Your goal needs to be realistic and attainable to be successful. In other words, it should stretch your abilities but still remain possible. When you've set an achievable goal, you may be able to identify previously overlooked opportunities and resources that can bring you closer to it. So an achievable goal will usually answer questions such as, how can I accomplish this goal? How realistic is the goal based on other constraints such as financial factors? Right? So is it achievable? So you might need to ask yourself if developing the skills required to become a supervisor is realistic based on maybe my existing experience and qualifications. So do I have time to complete the required training effectively? Right? Are the necessary resources available for me to be able to get that training done? These are all questions that you can become, or help you to be able to make sure that your goal is achievable. The next one is goals need to be realistic, or for me, relevant. This step is about ensuring that the goal matters for you and that it also aligns with other relevant goals. There's no sense me setting a goal if I don't care, because if I don't care, I'm not going to work on it. We all need support and assistance in achieving our goals, but it's important to retain control over them. So make sure that your plans drive everyone forward so that you're still responsible for achieving your goal on your own. So a realistic goal or a relevant goal can answer yes to these questions. Does this seem worthwhile? Is this the right time? Does this match with my efforts and needs or the efforts and needs of my organization? Am I the right person to reach this goal, especially when we're talking about in the organization, right? If we're answering yes to these, then your goal is realistic and relevant, right? So if I say I'm going to lose 10 pounds and I want to do it by exercising, and I say, well, I'm going to run. If I don't like running, then that's not really realistic or relevant for me, right? I need to pick something that I would like to do. So riding a bike maybe, or going swimming, or just going walking, or taking some fitness classes. Those would be more relevant or realistic for me than to say that I was going to start running. So after realistic, T stands for time-bound, time-based, or time limit. There has to be a limit on it. So every goal needs a target date so that you have a deadline to focus on and something to work towards. This is part of the SMART goal criteria to help you prevent everyday tasks from taking priority over your longer term tasks. So time-bound goals usually answer the question of when and what can I do 6 months from now, or what can I do 6 weeks from now? What can I do today? So that's allowing you to take your SMART goal and break it down into smaller goals. Okay. And one good thing to do when we're looking at SMART goals is to actually take the time and write them down. So what I'm going to give you is a handout on goal setting. So this handout will help you to set a SMART goal. It looks at specific, what do I want to do? Measurable, how much, how often will I do it? Attainable, how will I do it? Can I do it? When will I do it? And also allowing you to look at some barriers that are going to prevent you from reaching those goals. Because the trouble with not having a goal is that you can spend your whole life running up and down the field and never score, as Mr. Copeland says, which I think is awesome. Right? So by giving yourself a SMART goal, then you have something to work towards. So for those of you who are going to be joining me on the next 2 webinars, what I'd like you to do is work on this. Look at that, take that sheet and actually work out a smart goal for you to do over the next little while, maybe over the next 6 weeks? What are the things that you can do? All right. Any questions? I realize that it's coming close on to 1 o'clock. I have 2 more slides to do that I would like to get through before we say goodbye. So if you'll bear with me. So sometimes working on a resilience is helpful. Sometimes the demands placed on us outweigh our resources available. So just like when we have to go to physio for overuse injuries, we may need to seek additional resources for mental health, including addictions. So I'd like just to go over some of the resources that we have. So the Canadian Forces Members Assistance Program, CIFMAP, is available 24/7, 365 days of the year, referral service. So they'll refer you to an agency within your local area that would be able to help you with whatever you need. It's available for you and your family and anybody, and it will deal with any situation, whether it's financial, addictions, social, economical, whatever your issue is, they should be able to help you with that. Canada's suicide hotline is there for you as well. If you're looking for information on COVID-19, please go to the most direct source. So get your information from the Government of Canada site. Family information line is there as well. Used to be the old mission information line. So again, 24/7, 365 days of the year. Bilingual service, they actually have trained counselors on the line. And one of the cool things that they can do is they can set up reoccurring appointments with anybody. So you or your family members can call that line. There's a sexual misconduct response center. So anybody who has been impacted by sexual misconduct can call that line, whether you're bystander, perpetrator, or victim survivor. Kids Help Phone is there as well. And then the ARC line in support of COVID-19. So all questions military around COVID-19, and they'll be able to answer those questions for you. So to leave you just with one final thought, that it's okay to know it's okay to know not what you're doing. You just need to keep moving and remember to come up for air sometimes. And if the weather is right, go out and fly a kite. So any questions or comments? We're 2 minutes over our time, but I don't want to rush you off the line. You're welcome, Julie. See you next week. So work on those goal settings. I'm going to ask you about them. Yes, the next 2 are on the same day, same time. See you next week, Melissa. You're welcome, Lisa. No problem, Dawn. Thanks, Katie. Thanks, Jonathan. Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Jessica.